Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Mess Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the next big game that leaked early, and is Square Enix finally going to remake one of its most beloved games? We'll talk about that and more. It's going to be a good one because we have Lex Luddy on the show. Lexi, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, Grubb. I'm surviving. It's been a start to the year to remember, we'll call it, but I'm hanging in there.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, it's one battle after another, one day at a time, all that stuff. But yeah, you playing anything right now, or has it just been too busy for you?
I'm kind of between things. I just finished up reviewing Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Romeo's a Dead Man. And so I've kind of been jumping between things. I've been playing a bunch of racing games, just like
cool.
Craving it. I think I mentioned I had been playing Need for Speed Unbound.
Yeah.
The last time I was on here. I have now bought a copy of Burnout Revenge for the Xbox 360 because that's backwards compatible, and I want to fuck around with that. And then I've just been like, chipping away at things. I was so bummed out by Yakuza Kiwami 3 that I reinstalled Judgment to replay Judgment. And let me tell you, that's a good game, and I feel way more vindicated.
I need to play him.
The Judgment games are very easy to drop into because they are just self-contained stories, and they don't relate to almost anything within like the Yakuza verse. And so yeah, like those games still hold up. But apart from that, I haven't been playing much. I'm waiting for code to arrive in for certain stuff, but yeah.
Yep. I was playing a game all weekend, got some stuff wrapped up, and then I am still eyeing Sectoria. I've not played it since I set that new high score.
I picked up Sectoria again, and I've almost beat it.
Okay, I'll play some more.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I'm nowhere near high score chasing. I just want to clear it once. I'm just like, if I can clear this once, because I was never a Geometry Wars person, so I just don't have the muscle memory. But if I can clear it once, I'll be like, I have gotten my money's worth out of this game. And I really love everything about that game, and I love that it exists, and its style and how it looks. And playing it on PC, I'm like, oh, this is way easier. On a screen that's like right close to my face and has like 240 hertz refresh rate. This is so easy compared to playing on PS5.
Yeah, it does make a difference, like how you're playing. Like I got so used to playing on the Steam Deck, which is like I would hold very close. That when I would go play on a different system, if the controller felt slightly different, I'm like, this is unplayable. I can't actually play this anymore.
It's wild to me that you're setting those scores on a Steam Deck because, like, it's that screen. It's a big screen, but like, it's a small screen for that game.
Yeah, it does help, like though, because it puts a big part of that game at the high score chasing part of it is you got to see everything at once. You can't be focused on anything. In fact, there's a little circle that represents basically the hitbox for your ship. And if you were just like look at that and then unfocus your vision and let everything else sort of like happen, like it takes a lot of like work to get to that point. But that's kind of how you have to play it. And having it all right there on a screen that I'm holding makes that a little bit simpler. It's not simple, but it makes it a little bit simpler. But yeah, I'm enjoying games right now. It's a good time. I think it's going to just keep getting better. So looking forward to continuing covering some stuff. I got my my Super Station, the PlayStation kind of equivalent to Analog 3D. It's very much just a Mister, but no complaints because it's kind of like maybe the best Mister you can get.
What was it like setting up other cores on that? Because that's the thing I'm very curious about.
A lot of them came pre-loaded, pre-installed, but I'm having trouble with N64, and I've not tried to go through the process of remedying whatever is wrong there. So, yeah, it's going to be like the Mister. So it's going to require like, okay, which one of these scripts am I using? Although that could change fast. Apparently, Taki Udon, who is the guy responsible for putting this out, you might know him. He's a YouTuber. He is working on a custom front end that will make this feel more like a console, more like the Analog 3D. So I'm not seeing any of that yet. I just see the exact Mister interface I've been using on my Mister. And that, that's a little overwhelming for most people, I think. So the good news is if you're trying to do something specific like load on another course, that's well documented and you can follow a bunch of guides and it's super simple. And a lot of that stuff's built in. Just do the first thing of getting the thing hooked up, get it connected to the internet, and then like get a Bluetooth controller connected or however you're going to do that. and then make sure you have a keyboard and mouse attached to it so you can actually navigate it pretty simply. And then once you have that all set up, you just Google your question and it works pretty fast. But yeah, I'm happy with it. Mister's been great for a long time, and this is an affordable version of the Mister that has all the outputs you could want. It's got like 15 different ports on this bad boy. I'm very happy with it.
Like a fucking PS3 barbecue over there.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yes, Rafflecopter PS3 barbecue is what we say over here. All right, everybody, let's explain ourselves. We're Giant Bomb. Go to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member, please. If you do that, you are ensuring the future of independent games media. We could be out here continuing to cover games the way that we want to, the way that you want us to, and making stuff that you enjoy watching. We appreciate everyone who's come through and supported us so far. Like I always say, we've noticed it. It means the world. And we are looking to grow those ranks. So if you're sitting on the sideline, we're making a lot of new stuff for you. We got Grubb Snacks Premium, which I should be recording today for this week, but we have a bunch from the last few weeks. It's like our tiny little insider show where we can you can ask me questions by going to the premium forum, and I can try to find out answers to the stuff you're most interested in. It's a cool little cozy corner, and we got some plans to do more with that. But then, Mike's going to be recording a show with Abby, or we're all going to be working on the Abby show, which is Marry Me Tomodachi, and I am really, really looking forward to that. So, hey, all these things are going to be premium. Get on board. Let's make it happen. Thank you, everybody, for your support. We appreciate it. That's giantbomb.com/join. As far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with, let's check in on those God of War Sons of Sparta reviews. Ghost of Sparta, a different game. This is a 72 on OpenCritic, which, Lexi, honestly, I am surprised that it's that high.
I'm not sure if you... I've been keeping an eye on the OpenCritic and Metacritic for this game. I think it was like the weekend on Sunday, a couple of reviews went up, and they were all pretty high. And then like Monday and Tuesday came around, and like those were a bit more lower, as I think people who spent more time doing everything in the game were kind of like, maybe this game isn't as fully fleshed out as you would want. And yeah, it's always weird to review a Shadow Drop game as well, because how do you separate the game from the announcement of the game, and the expectations and everything like that? But yeah, let's take a look at some of these reviews.
Got a 9 out of 10 from Joel Daniels at Gaming Bolt, who said, despite its surprise release, it delivers a strong overall experience. The platforming feels tight and responsive, and the combat stands out with satisfying spear and shield mechanics that keep encounters engaging throughout. I'll say I definitely agree with that last part. PlayStation Universe says from John Paul Jones gave it a 7.5 out of 10 and said, though the tonal shift may be too much for some longer-term God of War vets, and it really doesn't achieve anything fresh or new in the Metroidvania space, Sons of Sparta nevertheless stands as proof that AAA developers like Sony Santa Monica should continue to let talented indie devs play in their sandbox, because despite such flaws, the results are still more than worthwhile. And then Aaron Potter at the Daily Mirror gave it 3 stars and said, and yet it's the rather confusing mix of ideas that ends up working both for and against the newest God of War endeavor. It's not necessarily a bad one when experienced in isolation, yet it is an undeniably strange and tad underwhelming one when slotted into the rest of the otherwise familiar franchise canon. There's a bunch of things there. I think the comparisons to the other God of Wars will never do this game any favors, both in terms of its tone, which is it does feel like cheap and sort of just slapdash with the voice acting and the characters, and then the fact that you're not playing as like the familiar Kratos, you're playing as boy Kratos. And then I think the fact that it looks the way it does, which I continue to find very unappealing.
Yeah, I think, like, watching that trailer, I had the same response that a lot of people did, which was they saw the pixel art logo for Sony Santa Monica and was like, oh, and then I saw gameplay and I was like, oh, oh. I think this game looks really, really ugly. I can't stand looking at it. I hate the art style so much, and I feel really bad like being that brutal on it, but it like the 3D models with the like pixelated filter over them, I just think it looks ugly as sin, and like the CRT filter that like looks like something that you would have gotten from a plug and play box like 10 years ago. Like it's real rough. Yeah, this is a weird game. Listening to you try to figure it out on the Bombcast was interesting because it's what I've been thinking a lot about it. Of like, Sony knows that this IP is extremely valuable. They could like quash almost anyone to work on it if they wanted to. I mean, people are doing it for Castlevania. Surely, if Cory Barlog was like, hey, do you want to work on a God of War game to some indie developers of note, they'd be like, fuck yeah, I want to work on a God of War game. And this just seems budget in so many ways. And like seeing a lot of the UI and the text that looks like it's like machine translated or like machine generated, that doesn't feel good. You're Sony. You can afford to like actually write your own UIs and item descriptions and stuff. This game kind of bums me out to look at it.
Yep, it's and it's tough because I'm continuing to play it here a little bit, every once in a while, or or here and there, I should say. And it is getting better. Like in terms of the way, like playing the game, it's getting better. I'm still a little frustrated that the controls work the way they do. A lot of these 2D Metroidvanias now do have their controls on the analog stick, and a lot of them work really well that way because they do have a full 360-degree control in terms of like where you're aiming, like your attacks and stuff like that. And this has that as well. So I get why they think they need it. But then there are a lot of circumstances where there's just like, I need to make my character like point in this direction. And because the analog stick is finicky, I kind of just didn't get it exactly right. Now he's looking the opposite way, and it just feels bad.
It is also really weird that they focus so much on the retro aspect of this, and like the D-pad doesn't. You can't use the D-pad for movement, which is just a very at odds thing to do with your tone.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like they kind of came to that retro marketing after they got the game in their hands, and they're like, how can we best position this and kind of let people know what it is? And I don't think that fully works for people who would be won over by the idea of a retro infused God of War game. It is getting better though. Like the combat is pretty engaging, even though I don't like looking at it anymore. Like as I'm playing the game more, it's not like these new environments or new enemies like improve it. And if anything, as you face like larger enemies, you can continue, like you see more of that like a repulsive filter effect, and it just makes you go, oh my god. I don't know. I get to a point where I'm enjoying it more, and I continue to not want to recommend it to anybody, because I don't think that people are going to be like, okay, yeah, there's something here for me, and so I'm going to continue to look at this thing that I didn't like looking at in the first place and not change that opinion at all. It's not worth it from that perspective. So I'm surprised it's doing as well as it is in reviews. Even the ones that like are coming in later are still a little bit higher than I was expecting. A lot of 3 stars, a lot of 70s. So I think people are finding something here. Do you think that is like God of War getting a little bit of a grading on a curve? Because I would expect people to be like kind of coming at this game with knives out, because they're like, this is not what I wanted.
I do think people really like God of War, and they like to like God of War, and the idea of going back to the Greek setting, there's probably a certain amount of like nostalgia with that. But as someone who doesn't have much nostalgia for those first 3 games, that I don't know, I haven't really felt that. But yeah, I'm surprised the reviews have been as positive. It is worth noting there still isn't a load of reviews. There's still plenty to probably come in. But yeah, I don't think people are going to be talking about this game in very favorable terms come like the end of the year.
Yep. While we're here on Open Critic, some reviews did drop for Paranormasight, The Mermaid's Curse, which I did get. I downloaded the first Paranormasight for $5, and I'm gonna try to get into it. I'm pretty sure it's not my kind of game, but I
It's
think
not your kind of game, Grubb.
but it's also like they are investigative sort of things in there, right? I'm like hoping there's something for me to latch onto. $5 though, I'll give it a shot. This new game reviewing very well. I think the last game did review well as well. 85 on Open Critic, which is like, yeah, that puts it up there so far this year as one of the best reviewed games. Game Informer's Eric Van Allen, one of the Vans, gave it a 9 out of 10 and said, truly, I never thought we'd see a second Paranormasight. Its predecessor felt like a one-off flight of fancy from Square Enix. Destined to be a fond oddity for genre aficionados. Now I can only hope there's more in store. Over at Nintendo Life, though, Oliver Reynolds gave it a 7 out of 10. It's still well worth your time, though, even if it doesn't match up to the original. As for performance, everything runs perfectly fine on the Switch with some lovely DS-inspired static images throughout, along with excellent mysterious music. Look, the DS didn't invent that, Oliver Reynolds. All right, that was... The static kind of images go way back to PC adventure games, but I get it. And then let's see if there's another one here kind of on the other side of the spectrum one more time, or maybe somewhere in between. DualShockers Tay Garcia gave it an 8.5 and says it delivers a complex, layered story filled with twists, supported by a simple yet efficient game design. The meta-narrative touches remain the star of the show, binding story and gameplay into a creative and immersive package that is simply hard to put down. Do you have familiarity with the series at all? I mean, I know people have talked about it since this reveal.
I have familiarity through a lot of people who are in Discords that I know being absolute freaks for this game. And being like, no, this is one of when Square Enix released like 13 games in a year, this was the really good one. I know some people who are very excited about this. I know it has some pedigree from that kind of era of the DS visual novel, games that were coming out that were really liked by the people who really like them, the Hotel Dusks and the Ace Attorneys and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I'm not super surprised that it's reviewing well. This is especially one of those games that is usually reviewed by a self-selecting crowd. Of people who really like these games are going to review them. And sometimes that works out great and you get like reviews like this and, reviews are very high. Sometimes I review Yakuza Kiwami 3 and, explore the depths of a scale, let's say.
Someone's got to. If not Lexi, then who?
Literally, apparently.
Apparently no one. I am... I'm curious about these games. I did like Hotel Dusk. I thought that might be like what I might get out of this. Although I've changed as a person, maybe I wouldn't like Hotel Dusk anymore. I'm more impatient than I've ever been. So we'll see. I'll try playing a little bit more of that first one, which people do seem to like even more than this one. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's continue on here. Do I have the right one? Yeah, there we go. The internet isn't safe for Resident Evil Requiem fans right now. This comes from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot, who writes, Resident Evil Requiem looks set to end the month on a high note, and if you're looking to dig into the new mainline chapter's gory lore, now might be a good time to log off. Reports are coming in that the physical edition of the new survival game has made its way out into the hands of some players ahead of its planned February 27th release date. If history has proven anything, it's only a matter of time before footage is uploaded to various channels. That's already happened. People are already doing that. I saw some Leon gameplay, actually. So there is definitely one person out there that has been uploading gameplay. People are asking him how he feels about the game. All that stuff is happening. Resident Evil, to me, Lexi, there are always those twists and turns that could be easily spoiled, but it is a journey game. It's about like how are they going to continue the story? How like what silly things are going to happen because it's Resident Evil. And then the tension you kind of can't spoil. You're still going to get that tension from playing it yourself. At the same time, I get if people don't want to be spoiled at all. They want to keep that lore pure. People probably should put their heads down, right?
Yeah, it does seem like this one, at least with the kind of hinting that they've been doing out of like, ooh, Leon has like this like black veins in his hand in the trailer, like there does seem to be like actual, they're pushing the narrative of the universe forward in some ways, so do be careful of spoilers and stuff like that. But also it's Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. If like Resident Evil lore only makes sense in it. Resident Evil lore follows the same rules that those X-Men movies used to follow, which is they're only canon to the one that came before them. Like you only need to care about the events of the last game previously, and everything outside of that like barely even fits in. It doesn't necessarily make sense. Like it doesn't have to. It's fine. And yeah, so like, you know, I don't mind these games' story being out there. They are what they are, and I'm sure people are perfectly capable of avoiding stuff if they try to, and if they're careful.
Yeah, I think that this is a game that a lot of people are looking forward to, and rightfully so. Everything we've seen of it so far has looked really, really awesome. And I think, you know, it's going to come down to how well they're able to like make that gameplay loop work where you're going back and forth between Grace and Leon. And that stuff won't be ruined by anyone out there spoiling things. But there are people who want to like experience it themselves first. And yeah, I'm sure that if you try to go out there and mute some keywords on social media, you'll probably be able to save yourself from that a little bit. But otherwise, I don't know, maybe just log off until the 27th. Although, yeah, that's 9 days out, so it's quite some time. Physical games, it's always the physical games. This is what happens here. Yeah. Obviously, it is. The retail releases.
I know what you're talking about, Grubb. According to Nintendo, it's the journalists. They're always the ones that leak it.
Nintendo doesn't know the difference. They have no idea. Yeah, they're just like, it's got to be them. Nintendo though is one where it's like, oh yeah, that like I think Pocopia, someone mentioned, is going to be a game key card. And it's like, is Nintendo doing the same thing here where they're trying to like lock down leaks by like making stuff locked down to game key cards? But I think that's their first game key card. I don't know. What I'm getting at here, Alexi, is do the companies care about these leaks enough to like change up the way that they're releasing their games, or what?
No. For the most part, no. Physical still, like, it is a healthy chunk of your sales, and you sell most physicals in the first week, on the first few days. I think the only reason that people keep on having this conversation when stuff like this happens now is because of the Rockstar rumors, and the only reason that Rockstar can do that is because they're Rockstar and they're out of their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
And they're very normal. And but you know, like, I don't think that for the majority of AAA publishers of this size, that stuff makes sense. They like, it sucks for them, but ultimately there's very few games where things leaking like actually affect sales that much, unless you look at I don't know, X-Men Origins Wolverine, unless it's something like that where a totally unfinished version gets out and the word of mouth is so toxic that it like tanks it. But like, it takes a lot of effort for people to come across a spoiler and be like, well, I'm not buying it now.
Yeah, you know, where it hurt was like the Switch 1, where the physical version would leak early and then it would end up backed up online.
Yeah.
And then that was you know, the dominoes of piracy kind of falling over there, and then that became the norm on the Switch 1, which I do think informed a lot of how Nintendo approaches stuff on the Switch 2, but not to the point where like now that they have the leaks under control because they're mostly releasing games on Switch 2, they're not worried about that too much. It's like, okay, now we can kind of go back to the way of releasing games that we had before. You're right. Rockstar is the one outlier that is maybe thinking about this, and you're right. They can get away with it, so they will do that, which is a sign of insanity. You're right. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Plenty more headlines to get into after that. If you want to skip out on these ads, you can go to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member. If you do that, there you can find an audio version of the show and a video version of the show that does not have ads. Go download those. In the meantime, we will be right back. All right, it's Game Mess Mornings. Lex Luddy, Jeff Grubb. Let's talk about Highguard. Sources say Tencent secretly funded struggling shooter Highguard. This is from Stephen Totillo at GameFile, who writes, Chinese gaming giant Tencent was the undisclosed lead financial backer of Wildlight Entertainment, the studio behind 2026's most tumultuous game launch. Sources familiar with the matter tell GameFile. Neither company has previously discussed the financial relationship, and reps for both did not provide a comment by press time. Wildlight's funding has been one of the several mysteries swirling around the studio and its debut game, free-to-play first-person multiplayer shooter, Highguard. I am not surprised at all about this. This is the kind of thing.
This explains a lot.
It explains a lot. It's also like super normal. Like no one pays for making games themselves. Like that's not how this works. I mean, like small indie studios, yes. A game of this scale, never. There would never be a thing where we all just got a bunch of money from when Respawn got bought by EA. Our stocks vested. Let's all leave this company, start our own company, and we're going to use our own money to pay for this game. That doesn't happen. That's not what happens. Like, if maybe they go and they do like independent movie style and they get money from like dentists or whatever, more frequently than not, they use their existing connections to get in a room with a company they know gives money, and it's Tencent, and it's just, little surprise. What did you think when you heard this?
It definitely explains why it has felt so cut and run.
Now that we're here, yes.
Yeah, now that the rubber has hit the road and this game isn't the biggest thing in the world. And, you know, I think that Tencent's being so oblique about this is pretty in line with the fact that a lot of these Chinese companies are pulling back on foreign investment or foreign video game investment outside of China. You see it with NetEase. This is something that hasn't really like been talked about around the release of Romeo is a Dead Man, but like that game is self-published by Grasshopper. Grasshopper owned by NetEase. They were bought by NetEase, and NetEase have just been like, actually, we're not publishing that anymore. Good luck. You can fund the publishing yourself. They seem very checked out on the actually publishing of foreign games. And the same thing goes for Gang of Dragon, which is Negoshi's next game, is they've said that's going to be self-published, even though that company is technically owned by NetEase. And it seems like NetEase has just committed to fulfilling whatever budget promises they had for those games and are not going beyond that with like marketing or, you know, support or anything like that. So I think you're going to see a lot of studios that either got this kind of investment or are owned by these companies try to find ways to gain independence to prevent the blowback if things go wrong being as bad. I can't remember what studio, but there was a story of a studio buying themselves out from Tencent earlier this week, and like going independent again. So I think you're going to see a lot of these companies that are realizing that their parent companies don't have interest in working with foreign bodies and be like, hey, maybe we should prep for when things come out and we're left to the wolves and we're on our own. And in the case of Highguard, I think that they got very unlucky because, you know, it's weird, like, they laid everyone off so fast, but they are still technically independently owned. Like,
right.
Was their runway that short? Was it so short that if the game didn't hit Apex Legends numbers, they couldn't even keep it running for a month without laying almost all the staff off? And at that point, it becomes less like, oh, this is like another failure by Tencent to get into the Western market. This is a big failure by management to budget. Because they gotta know that the game doesn't have a 100% success rate. Like, it's not guaranteed success no matter what. And the idea that you would be like, yeah, we have a runway of like 8 days before we have to lay everyone off, that seems insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from the eyes of they're like the like a little bit of a gamble. I mean, it lines up for me in a lot of ways. Like, first of all, Tencent like was never coming in here as like an ownership stake. It was I'm sure
there was no risk in it for them except for the like pocket change that they spent to fund it.
Right, and that was like probably a little bit of a conversation a long time ago, like probably years ago. They got a chunk of change and they used that to fund whatever part of development, and I bet they got a lot of other like smaller investments as well. And that money is just like, okay, that's just one of our investors. This is our company. We're running it. and we have experience of going through Apex Legends. So we have a set of projections, a sort of cone of possibilities where, if the game does exactly like Apex Legends, we can, of course, keep everyone around. If it does 50% of what Apex Legends did, we can keep everyone around. And then, like, if it's on the lower end, if it's like 25% of what Apex Legends did, and that's kind of what we're expecting, maybe, it's going to be tough, but we can make that work. The reality here is, like, yeah, it's bad management, but this did like 1% of what Apex Legends did. It was well outside of probably what a lot of their like internal math was based on. And I mean, obviously, in hindsight, now being 2020, we can look and be like, well, that was a mistake. You shouldn't have done that. But I think it was probably pretty hard for them being like, well, the information we do have is you can do something like this. And if you have the pedigree and you kind of come out and say a game matters and you launch it in this way, you have a chance of at least capturing a good number of these players and getting a chance. It had no chance. 1.5 million players who were free to play new live service shooter in its first couple of weeks is nothing. Like, it really is kind of nothing.
It really is just the latest in a long line of like, hey, your name doesn't buy you any goodwill anymore.
Yeah.
Leslie Benzies, it didn't work out for Mind's Eye. Like, Mind's Eye obviously was fucked in a lot of ways. As someone who finished that game has a lot bigger problems than its poor marketing or any one flaw with it. But like, there was a time when if you were like, this is the next game from like the guy who worked on Eternal Darkness or whatever, people would just pay attention, and suddenly Too Human was like the talk of the industry for months.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like, oh, you're a well like renowned and frequently named person in the industry from 5 years ago. What have you done for me lately? And it just doesn't matter in the same way that it used to, because people's memories are so short. Like, it does not matter if you had a success 10 years ago. It's why I started getting some pure emails for the Albion game, the Masters of Albion, Peter Molyneux game.
Yeah.
And I hope that game does well for him. I'd like him to have a financially successful game. But, does the name Peter Molyneux carry any weight in 2026? I don't really know. Apart from for people like me and you who are terminally engaged in the history of this industry, like, I don't think Twitch streamers who are variety streamers or something know who Peter Molyneux is.
I mean, they know him as a meme. Like, I think, it does reach that level where he's known as a meme. Does that get you? I think it doesn't get you across the finish line is what we're finding.
Yeah.
And if anything, a lot of times this stuff works against these games where expectations or, hey, is this game going to be as good as the older game? And like, we're going to really pay attention to the differences. Like for Highguard, we're really going to hone in on how this is not Titanfall. It's certainly not Titanfall, and it's not really even Apex Legends. So what is it? And it's like, we don't have a lot of patience at that stage of like when they start.
I know hindsight is totally 2020, but imagine if they just like made a spiritual successor to Titanfall with like Titan equivalents mechs, and it was a Apex Legends like of, hey, there's a circle closing. Like, I get that they are like, we're a team that innovates, but also video games are an art form based on iteration as much as innovation. And sometimes people just want you to do the next logical step. And if Respawn isn't going to do it, why wouldn't you take that, shot at the open goal and be like, fuck it, if people really want these Titans and shit, we're going to put mechs in our new game. Because we know how to do that. Like, it's such a weird, and then I feel bad because I'm like, well, now I'm just armchair fucking game developer and no one needs that. But it's a weird situation. It feels preventable.
Yep, absolutely. This is not the first time we've seen a lot of like this fate happen to something like one of these spin-off studios. There was a lot coming out of Blizzard over the last couple of years, a lot that were like, hey, we were on the StarCraft team. Now we're making our own StarCraft, and it's like people didn't show up, and a lot of times it's like, that's the guy. No, that's the guy's studio, like the guy that was like making StarCraft.
Mike Morhaim's publisher.
Oh yeah, and yes, right, and he's got a couple of games that like have been like maybe doing all right, but and then for like this for Wildlight, that was a big bulk of the Respawn team. Like, quite a few people from Respawn were at that studio, and there's very few people left at Respawn that were at Respawn when they were the Respawn that most people remember, because they've spun out to all these other studios. All these other ones have got to be looking around going like, Oh boy. All right. So how do we avoid this? And I think it's got to be. I mean, if you're doing the easiest, safest thing, a lot of long-term public testing, right? You got to
Yeah.
you got to build that into your budget.
But then
And I
that
think
doesn't always
that's
work too, because you look at something like Skate and it gets the baggage of, hey, when this first launched in even
yeah,
closed beta, people didn't like what they were going for, and that baggage never managed to leave it. Like, people are
yeah.
so quick
It's
to
not a
inflict a
silver
label
bullet.
on a thing. So it's really tricky, and like you've said it a few times, but like the last fucking thing I'd want to be in the world right now is someone making games and trying to make people happy, because
Yeah.
people are never fucking happy. Um, and I'm sure some of that's down to people's mental states being
And
attuned to being in
money
a spot where
crunch.
they're not,
Yep.
yeah, where they're not going to be happy, and people having less money to spend on this hobby that they want to engage with, and feeling even worse if they don't get everything that they want out of each and every dollar spent. um but yeah, it's a real fucking tough place to be at the moment. Tell you what though, I played Titanfall 2 this January. That game might be like Letterbox top 4 video games. That game's up there. That game's
Yeah.
probably one of the 4 for me.
Yep, I still agree. It's still so good. There is a new game, everybody. Volume, VH, and then the rest of the word is spelled like the rest of volume. There's a beta out on Steam right now, and
I've seen this, yes.
yeah, Chris Person messaged me about this. He's like, it's basically that Titanfall Gauntlet mode, but without guns. Just the wall running and the sliding and all that stuff. And yeah, that hit the spot real hard for me yesterday. There's a leaderboard, you see. So I've been playing some of that. So everyone go check that out. All right. Let's see. Like we were Highguard, more from Highguard. It appears ready to say by guard, players believe. This comes from Chris Compendio, at GameSpot. It's been a tumultuous road for Highguard and its developer Wildlight Entertainment. Really, I'm just going to jump to it. The story says, hey, the website's been down, so everyone's like, hey, this means the game is done, right? Well, Ethan Gotch at Kotaku was able to get a little bit more from them. Let's see here. I think the quote is in the story. Not sure on the time frame. No. Oh, yeah, okay. Basically says the Highguard devs are focused on delivering updates despite the radio silence. The game is not dead yet. What do you believe, Lexi?
It doesn't look good. Like those steep. It's frustrating because it's one of those things where, like, I think this game mode could have grown naturally because that's what this game is. It's selling a new game mode in a lot of ways. Like, that's their big pitch, is it's this raid PvP game mode that they've established. And I look at the flow of that and I'm like, yeah, if you refine this for a while, you totally could have had a split gate one situation where this game grew slowly over time, and then when people were feeling low on, I don't know, the next Call of Duty when it comes out, and if that doesn't hit, they look over and they're like, oh, there's this small community of like people really enjoying this first person shooter. But because it was so all or nothing and it was so big budget, they just needed it to hit, and I don't know, it doesn't seem like it has. It doesn't seem like even now it's the numbers jumping up so high so quickly probably didn't even do it any favors, because it means that so many people have written it off in the worst state that it's ever going to be in, and they're never going to be able to build that base that they want to. So yeah, like it feels bad. It feels real bad.
Yeah, Sam O'Nice says 931 players. It's done. It's done. Because what are you saving it for? And like, how much effort would it take to sort of rehabilitate this? And would that be worth it? You're right. Could it have a Splitgate like resurgence? And we see that, like, for Splitgate, that doesn't last either. So
Yep.
yeah. I think we've seen that story a handful of times. I do remember Rainbow Six Siege's debut and how people dismissed that, and I tried it right away. I was like, no, great. I never had to play that again. I'll move on. And then years later, playing it quite a bit because it really improved. And it was like, wow, I can't believe they did that.
I played so much Rainbow Six Siege at launch. I'm
Yeah.
a weird. I played most of my Rainbow Six Siege at launch, and I played most of my Destiny at launch.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I'm a fucking weirdo.
You like broken things. Yeah, that's fair.
To be fair, I did play like 500 hours of Destiny 2, but like I played well over 1,500 hours of Destiny 1.
Yeah.
Like pre-Taken King, which is, what was I doing? Boy, I sure was 13 or 14. I could afford to do that with my life.
We'll see. I think Highguard's probably just gonna not so slowly fade away, and because it's the amount of effort it would take to fix this thing, it just doesn't seem like it would be worth that effort. All right, keeping on here, Square Enix is working on a Chrono Trigger remake. We've heard this a bunch of times before. Let's see what the latest rumors are saying. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Last year, there were numerous rumors suggesting that Chrono Trigger was poised for a comeback, with Square Enix veteran Yuji Horii himself fueling some of them. We talked about that on this show before, including personally hinting to us here at Game Reactor. As recently as December last year, he chose not to respond to questions about a potential remake, despite being able to easily deny it if it were not true. Now, a very, very reliable insider says that Chrono Trigger is indeed making a comeback. This insider is John Harker, who has been delivering credible rumors for 10 years, and who writes the following on Reset Era regarding a survey currently being conducted by Square Enix. The Chrono stuff is already in dev, though. Let's ask for something else, like opening back up Triangle Strategy 2 or a legit sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics. When other users reacted to this comment, he stood his ground and seemed to mean it. Of course, this should not be considered official confirmation, but rumors from insiders don't have much better sources than this. Yeah, the first thing I saw in chat is how I feel. Chrono Trigger doesn't need a remake. They have to be kind of careful with how they handle this. I think if anything, you take if you want to re-release Chrono Trigger, you take Chrono Trigger and you sort of amplify everything it already is without changing anything.
You probably just combine the 3 different versions. That's what you do, is you take the NES or the SNES core, you add the FMV cutscenes from the PS1 version, and then you add the extra dungeons or whatever from the DS version, and like, don't touch it outside of that. Don't change the art style. Don't do anything. Just leave it. I'm curious if they do feel the need to like change it that much.
Yeah, I would hope not. Even HD 2D, it's like the lightest version of HD 2D, if that's what we're talking about. Like, yeah, I think that can work. But again, to the point of amplifying how Chrono Trigger already looks. I don't want to like feel like it's a completely different game when I'm glancing at it, because it's one of the most timeless games ever made already. Especially in terms of its visual appeal. I do think this is happening, though. I do think Yuji Horii was teasing it last year, and that it was going into production, and now it is. What do you think this leads to? Because they have had success with bringing back Final Fantasy Tactics again. Do we think we're getting a new Final Fantasy Tactics? And if this works, do they then start doing more Chrono games in the future? What do you think?
I would love a new Final Fantasy Tactics so much. That remake was so good. It was just what I wanted. Like, everything about that remake was good. When it comes to like more Chrono games, I don't know. I think people have finally started to turn on Chrono Cross and be like, no, it's not. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like Chrono Cross. Is the sentiment I see around Chrono Cross pretty often now.
Same.
Which you wouldn't have, even 10, 15 years ago. But I'm not sure who would you even get back for it, because a lot of those people are quite old, or they don't work there anymore, or have passed away. So it would be a strange team to put together. You'd have to put together a new team, a new dream team.
Yeah, and that is difficult to do. And I wonder if they have the appetite to try to figure that out. A lot of that will maybe be determined by how well this does. At the very least, though, these companies, they do the remakes frequently for a reason, and they don't necessarily then follow it up on with like, oh, and now that series is just back. I think, Konami's trying to navigate this with Metal Gear right now. I think they're like, let's just do as much as we can with the stuff that exists. And then we are going to figure out a future for Metal Gear. What that future actually looks like is such a huge question mark. And that's the one that's like the most challenging, because it has the most baggage with Kojima. So here it's like it's not exactly the same thing, but it's similar in terms of, people really have an affinity for that original game, and many people do really enjoy Chrono Cross or think it's even very good. Can you replicate that, and do you even want to? We'll have to see how Square Enix sort of falls in on it. All right. Let's see here. Get to the next story. Replaced. The long in development Cyberpunk action game has been delayed again. Jan, if it's not too much trouble, can you bring up a gameplay trailer or a trailer for this? Because I think every time it comes up, people are like, "What? Which game is this?" And once you see it, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this in a lot of showcases before." This is from Alessandro Barbosa at GameSpot. Despite getting a release date last year after years in development, Replaced is being pushed back once again just a few weeks before its launch. Thankfully, this latest delay for the Cyberpunk thriller is just a few short weeks with a new date of April 14th. The team at Sad Cat Studios says it is addressing player feedback provided by the game's recently released demo, as well as taking the extra time to polish things up before launch. In a message announcing the delay, Sad Cat recognized that it's been a long time since Replaced was announced, but that the team wants to ensure the best possible experience on day one. At a certain point, Lexi, if you've taken 10 years to make a game, a few more weeks feels like, yeah, we should just do that if it means getting this exactly right at launch, right?
Yeah, I previewed this game at Gamescom last year, and I talked to one of the devs, and boy, they have been through it. It comes up a little bit in this, but they were deeply affected by the ongoing war in Ukraine. They had one of their lead, I think it was programmers, passed away during development. Like they've been through it. So I really want this game to be good. I hope it's good. I played a bit of it. The combat is like shockingly fun. It's 2D Batman Arkham style combat, which doesn't sound like it should work, but it super does. Enemies kind of flow in and flow out of taking their shots at you, and you can parry them and strike them like Batman. And it does just feel very good. And it looks great. I really hope that this game turns out well and that it does well for them, because yeah, they've had a rotten time of it.
Yep, and I think it's easy to joke about the game taking forever to get released, and then as soon as and they've dealt with some troubling geopolitical context, it's always like, oh, okay, take your time. Look, we were just joking. We really was just a joke, yeah. But I bet they will be very happy to get this game out. New release date. It will be on Game Pass. I think that's been long announced. I guess it goes to show you that agreement doesn't expire even if it takes years for the game to eventually come out. It'll be on Game Pass, and a lot of people get a chance to play it that way. So I'll be curious to see how people actually end up feeling about it.
Stalker in some ways.
Yeah. Yes. Like a lot of similarities there. You're right. So good luck. I hope they're able to get it out. I want it to be good as well. I think it looks striking at the very least.
That would be an interesting gamble on Fantasy Critic. I'm curious if anyone picks it up.
And it's one where you could see it being like, oh man, is this the one I try to counterpick because they've delayed it so many times? Is it really going to end up being good? And that could really burn someone. So yeah, there's a lot of.
So what we're saying is, Dan, counterpick it. Counterpick it now, Dan.
That's the move, Dan. All right, last couple of stories here. Is this the next Sonic game? A leaker on Twitter named V Scooper gave a bunch of bullet points on what to expect from the next Sonic game. It's coming in 2027. It will be the biggest original Sonic title. The game is not yet named. It will feature a modernized 3D art style, but will have a
they'll
2D...
love that.
Right. Well, exactly. What does that mean?
The last time they did that, everyone loved that.
Right. Or they're going to be trying to be more inspired by the movie look or something like that. 2D integration or hybrid is being considered. I think that means there will be 3D elements and then stages that play like Green Hill Zone or whatever. Could be revealed this year. It will have a larger playable ensemble of characters, a stronger story focus, which is always what you need from a Sonic game. And they say it's built for long-term support. Although then I think asked about will it be a live service game? They're like, not sure about that, but long-term support. And it will have, indeed, closer ties to the upcoming movies and series, which the most successful Sonic thing ever has been that movie series. So yeah. That kind of feels like that's inevitable. That they're trending in that direction, right? They want to make this new 3D art style probably suggest those movies, if not outright look just like them.
Yeah, that checks out. I'm sure people will be so normal about this, especially if you say that it's maybe not great. Yeah, Yeah, good luck.
Luckily,
anyway,
we've never had to say that about a Sonic game. So
you're right.
Woo.
They've batted 100 so far. So
no, I meant they've legally banned it. You're not allowed to say that.
Also, Dan came up there a second ago. I saw a thing on Blue Sky yesterday of someone getting picked up from the airport in the Wienermobile.
Yeah.
Did Dan just act really quickly? I know he was flying.
I just assumed it was Dan too. I didn't even check in. I'm sure it was him. Yeah. He had he was out on assignment. So yeah.
Dan works quick. Yeah.
He does. Mysterious ways and quick. It's makes you think for sure.
Anyway, put the Wienermobile in Sonic.
I think that's the only solution here. That's what we have to do.
Least erotic thing in Sonic.
I did get a message from Dan during this show, and it's I can't reveal the contents, which maybe I could, but I don't know if I can, so I'm not going to. But it's always like, all right, that's weird. Anytime he messages me like that, especially during a show, it's always like, okay, I better check in on whatever's happening.
It is kind of like, getting a text from your grandparent, and it's just like a 2-word text, and it's like, what do you mean, see you later? Like, what?
You're right. You're very, very right.
We never, what do you mean, I'll talk to you soon? What?
Yep, it's that ominous. So I'll have to go check in and see exactly what's needed from me. Last story here: Skyrim Anniversary Edition on Switch 2 gets a new update, which fixes the game and makes it not an absurd embarrassment. From Chris Scullion at VGC, the Switch 2 version of Skyrim has received a new patch. It now runs at 60 frames per second. It was previously locked to 30, which was maybe a holdover from the Switch 1 version, but we're talking about Skyrim, a game from 2011. It should have always been 60 frames per second. What are you talking about? But then they also got rid of the latency. There was input lag, really noticeable bad input lag.
It was like 200 milliseconds of input lag. It was nuts.
It was like, several frames of input lag, and people noticed that and was like, oh, that feels terrible. They fixed that as well. Probably they've done this as they are getting ready to release Fallout 4 on Switch 2, so you would hope that doesn't have the same problems. Like, that is just going to work out of the box, but we'll see. We'll get a chance to
God, listen, BDS boycott, all of that. I am so excited for the Oblivion remake to come out on there and for it to run like absolute dog shit. It's gonna be so bad.
I'm going to be curious to see what that does. There are some games that run surprisingly well on Switch 2. The games that I'm not counting on doing that are the ones from Bethesda and the ones from. I think those are going to be, continue to be bad. All right, that does it for the headlines. So let's get into the poll question, which we don't have right because we didn't do a show on Monday. And then Friday was the Bomb 12. I will say there is a new link for the Bomb 12 forum. Everyone should go submit their Bomb 12 game for this week. You can do so by going to giantbomb.com. If you scroll down on the left hand there's a button where you could submit your game. We'll round those up for the end of the week. The last one we did have was the Have You Tried Mugenics? And I think we did talk about that on Friday. Still 19%. A lot of people voted on that. All right, so we'll have a new poll question here in a second. Before we do that, though, Lexi, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
You can find me on Blue Sky at lexluddy.xyz. I'm kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for some codes to come through, waiting to work on some other stuff. I'm traveling to Leeds, of all places, next week for a publisher event. And then I'm kind of quiet for the next little while, which will be nice. Be able to catch up on some new releases and stuff. You can check out startmenu.co.uk in the meantime. That's the website that I run in my spare time for people trying to break into the games industry. And we have stuff going up there every couple of days, so check that out.
Excellent. Fantastic. New poll question is, what do you want from the next Sonic game? Do you want a new 3D Sonic or a new 2D Sonic? Maybe we could put something else on there. Do you want something else from Sonic? We'll get the results of that, talk about it on the show here tomorrow on Game S Mornings on Giant Bomb. Speaking of Giant Bomb, it is Wednesday, but Blight Club cannot happen. Dan is out on assignment. So instead, we will be doing D-Light Club. We're going to give Mikey a nice little break. I know everyone, I get it, chat. I know, they're screaming. He hasn't earned it. He doesn't deserve a break. He needs to continue to be punished. I
He
agree.
keeps on avoiding like playing bad video games. He barely does it at all.
It's kind of getting to be a problem. We're like, it's going to be in his performance review. I know. We'll make sure we'll dock him pay. I'll do what I can here.
And he's way too mean to Dan too.
He's I don't like it's not my place. I think Dan needs to stick up for himself, but yeah.
And like we
right.
probably shouldn't talk about it on air, but like Dan's on assignment, that means he's spending like time with his therapist. Like he just couldn't come in today.
Dan just he needs time away from his bully. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll get back to Blight Club next week, everybody. In the meantime, let's give Mikey a break and he can try out I think it's Jan, do you remember the name of the game? It's like I can't remember, but it does play like Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero allegedly. So we'll be checking. Yeah.
Let me look it up. It is a Mythologies like.
It's a Mythologies like. Yeah.
I did say this in the live chat for Blight Club last week of like sometimes I worry that we're too mean to Mike, but like the problem is it's really fucking funny. It's really funny to be mean to Mike.
It's too funny. It's our whole business model now. It's a problem.
Obey the insect god, maybe.
Thank you, Jan.
Well,
that sounds right.
said yes. I think I sent this on to Dan. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So we're gonna check that out. It's a demo, so we'll see what we get out of it. I'll have something else in the waiting for him though, if he needs to be playing something else. All right, so that's today. We have other stuff in the works. We have our shows happening the rest of the week, including Game Mess Mornings. So look out for that. Jan will be on the show tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Outside of all of those things, though, I think I should probably say thank you, Lexi, for hanging out with me today and talk about video games. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Grubb. Always a delight.
And thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.